Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Tools used in research. Lecture number 17. Now slowly we are proceeding towards the end of this lecture series, which is based on research methodology. Let us try to look at what are the tools that are commonly used in research, because as a research scholar, sooner or later you will have to use one or more than one tool to conduct your research, and therefore a good knowledge of what are the available tools, where they are applicable is, and its understanding is a must. Tools used in research. Common tools that research tools are instruments used to collect and analyze data during research, helping researchers gather information and draw conclusions. Common tools include survey, questionnaires, interviews, observation, focus group, and various software for data analysis. Research tools refer to the instrument, techniques, and resources that researchers use to collect, analyze, and interpret data. These tools vary depending on the nature of the research, qualitative or quantitative, and in the field in which the study is being made. For example, for natural science, social science, humanities, for pure science, the tools may be different, but that's okay. For a particular research to be conducted efficiently and properly, we need tools. That is the bottom line. And when we use proper tool for conducting the research, we are on the safe lines and we are using the corrective measure for doing the qualitative or quantitative analysis in our research. So that part should be very clear, that everybody has to use some tool or the other. They may use different softwares to gather their analysis. They may use many techniques, instruments, like for example, if you are a student of chemistry and you are pursuing research in chemistry, you will definitely, and if you are into synthesis of molecules, at some point in time you will have to use FTIR, UV visible, NMR, mass spectrometers, and so on. And if you are a synthetic organic chemist or a synthetic inorganic chemist, you will need to do chromatographic techniques to separate. So, which means that you have to use tools. There is no way that you can escape using tools in research and yet doing research. Types of research tools. Now let us go one by one. Although we saw fleetingly in the previous slide, this one is a little elaborate. Let us understand. A good understanding of each tool will help you to understand and make the right choice. Surveys and questionnaires used to gather information from a large sample of participants through structured question. A set of questions are prepared and this is circulated and people are asked to give their opinion. Now that is, for a large sample size where this would be a very easy way of collecting the data. However, you can also go for interviews. Allow researchers to gather in-depth information, direct conversation with the participants. So you have a one-to-one talk, but that can only be for a few number of people. You can't interview 200 people in one evening. So that is what the choice of the tool totally depends on your size of the sampling. And we learnt about sampling size, etc., in one of the previous lecture. So that is how we are now slowly getting into the right kind of approach. Then comes observation. Researchers observe and document behaviors or events in a natural setting. So you just ask a few people to tell their observation. Then there is something called focus groups. Facilitated discussion with a small group of participants to explore a specific topic. You take different opinion from different people. What do you think about the war? Suppose if that is your focus group is a young group of people or an assortment of all ages, and you take their feedback as to what is their opinion about the war. Something like that. So that will be like a focus group. Then experiments. Of course, all researchers who are working in the laboratory, particularly in the chemistry, physics or biology laboratory or pharmaceutical laboratory or clinical laboratory, need to conduct experiments. Controlled studies that manipulate variables to determine cause and effect relationship. So always in any experiment, if you want to see the effect, you will have to put a control. Like for example, in one of the lectures I had told that if we want to see the effect of an auxiliary, whether it is helping in dying or not, we will have to keep one sample where the auxiliary is not used. And in other samples, by variating different conditions, we are using the auxiliary. Maybe we are using the 5% concentration, 10% concentration, and that kind, those variables are in our hand. But one control sample where the auxiliary is not used is what is going to be our reference point. Just the way in any scale, we have a zero on one end. Against that zero, we measure. Similarly, you have a controlled study or sample against which you see how your chemical is behaving and is there any effectivity, is there any cause of any special effectivity, and is there any relationship between the cause and effectiveness. Then comes case studies. In-depth investigation of a single individual, group or organization. You make a case study. You want to find out that why is it that, in so many tanneries around Unnao, so much of chromium contamination is there. You make a case study that what groundwater is contaminated. Now that it becomes your case study. So that kind of very specific, in-depth investigation is coming under the category of case study tool. Statistical software, tools like SPSS, Excel or R are used for data analysis and statistical modeling. Software for qualitative data analysis, tools like NVivo or Atlas TI help researchers organize and analyze qualitative data. Database search engines, tools like JSTOR, Google Scholar and PubMed allow researchers to access and analyze vast amounts of scholarly literature. Reference management software, tools like Zotero, Mendeley or EndNote help researchers to organize citation and manage their research database. Plagiarism detection software, tools like Turnitin, Quillbolt, Grammarly and many such are available, which can help us to find out these are tools. So with that, tool we can do the specific job. Whether we want to do statistical job, then we will use statistical software. If we want to search database, we will use search engines like Google Scholar, PubMed, and so on. And likewise, like reference and plagiarisms also have their softwares, which are nothing but tools. So what it means that research is driven by all these or facilitated by all these tools which are now available to the people who are into research. Literature and reference tools used to manage sources, citation, and review literature. Reference managers like Zotero, EndNote, and Mendeley. Academic search engines like Google Scholar, ScienceDirect, ResearchGate, Academic EDU, etc. are available for literature and reference tools. Because when we are sitting down, the references are so many in number. If I put the correct keyword, these search engines really help and facilitate to narrow down that area, and we can download only those specific papers which are relevant for our literature survey. So, and even for citation, it helps to manage to get the sources and to get the citation. From citation, we can get cross citation. Likewise, it is like opening a Pandora box. So one thing helps the other one helps the third one, and so on. So this way, life for researchers become much easier. Doing research in the current time with all these facilitating tools is much easier than what it was at my time, some 50 years back. So what I am trying to draw your attention that make use of these tools to do good research and fast research, where literature survey may take days, months, but with the help of these academic search engines like Google Scholar, ScienceDirect.com, ResearchGate, Academic EDU, it becomes very easy, or at least if not very easy, easy enough for a researcher. Writing and documentation tool for drafting, editing, formatting, research content. There are very good word processors that are available. And the best one, of course, which is used very, very commonly is Microsoft Word. You keep on typing, it takes its own format. Or for technical and scientific writing, you have LaTeX. So there are tools now, modern tools I will say. LaTeX is one of the modern tools which helps in a very great deal to write a document. It is not that it is not getting formatted. The way you choose the formatting, it will take the formatting, and the rest of the typing will happen according to that formatting. Then comes Grammarly and Hemingway. You have language polishing. So suppose if you have written a sentence which is a literal translation of Hindi, it may not be sounding very good in English, and the verb, positioning of the verb may be inappropriate. So in such cases, Grammarly or Hemingway really helps to polish the language very effectively. Of course, plagiarism checkers are always available. Turnitin, iThenticate. So these, the moment you put your document into that, you are able to see whether or not any portion is showing any commonality with any other paper. And many a times, these are the tools that the editors or the reviewers use to check your paper when it goes for publishing. So it is kind of, yardstick which helps to prevent you from doing anything that can be dangerous. You yourself can do a plagiarism check before sending the paper. So these tools are not only available to the editors and reviewers, they are also available to the researchers. Once they have prepared their document, just to cross check whether or not any sentence is common, they can do a Turnitin or an iAuthenticate check, and they can find out any commonality with any other research paper published in the past. So this is both ways beneficial. It is just that you should know that these tools are available and they can be used for your betterment. Then there are visualization and presentation tools. To present data or research findings, we have graphic tools like Tableau, Excel charts, Origin Lab, and so on. And for presentation tools, we have PowerPoint, Canva, Prezi. And I'm sure during the period of your tenure as a research scholar, you would have made or you will be expected to make presentations. Most of the students make presentations on PowerPoint. But nowadays, Canva, which has more possibilities of design, where you have to put more of design and less of written words, Canva is one of the better ones. But PowerPoint is a standard presentation tool which is used universally. Even this presentation I have made on PowerPoint. Then comes statistical and data analysis tools and laboratory tools. Statistical and data analysis tools, which are software tools mainly, are used to analyze the collected data such as SPSS, R, Microsoft Excel, MATLAB, and so on. And laboratory instruments for scientific research are some of the examples are gas chromatograph, high pressure liquid chromatograph, UV visible spectrophotometer, FTIR, Fourier transform, infrared spectrometer, pH meter, and many other such equipments are used in research labs. These tools help researchers collect reliable data, test hypotheses, and draw valid conclusions. So the role of this data is very, very important and crucial. They give you the correct information where you can understand that these are, if they are calibrated, if they are working all right, the data or output of these machines or software tools are very, very correct and can be, taken as an authentic data. Statistical data, let us now understand a little deeper. Statistical and data analysis tools are software or computational methods used to organize, analyze, interpret, and visualize research data. They help researchers identify patterns, test hypotheses, and draw reliable conclusions. Number 1, SPSS, widely used in social science, education, and health research. Perform statistical tests such as t-test, ANOVA, regression, correlation, etc. User-friendly interface with menu-based commands. So they are very, very user-friendly, and they help, once you have collected the data, how to interpret or make sense of the data is what they do for you. So instead of you sitting and making all the calculations, you just feed the data and they do the rest of it. So they are basically menu based, taking commands, and then they are very user friendly and they can be used very easily. Second one is R, a powerful open source programming language for statistical analysis used for data visualization, machine learning, and advanced statistics, popular among researchers and data scientists. So it is not for chemists who are working in experimental field. This is mainly for data scientists, for those who are working on algorithms, for those who are working on machine learning, data visualization, and so on. Then comes third, Microsoft Excel, which I think again will be used by you because it is also commonly used by analysts who are into chemistry research. Commonly used for basic statistical calculations and data organization. Useful for tables, charts, descriptive statistics, and simple regression analysis. You've carried out an experiment in biology, say you want to see the colony count of some microbe under certain conditions, and those things can be done through Microsoft Excel. By very easily you can do the regression analysis and derive at the R square value. Then comes MATLAB, used for mathematical modeling, numerical analysis, and simulation. Widely applied in engineering and scientific research. Now, this is, of course, MATLAB, sometime or the other you would have heard the name, is a very, very important mathematical modeling system, and it uses numbers to analyze, and it is also helping in simulation. It is widely applied in engineering and scientific research. The fifth one is SAS. Now, advanced statistical software used in medical, pharmaceutical, business research is where the SAS is used. It handles large data set and complex statistical modeling. So depending, it is more like need based. Wherever you are needing that particular thing, you are using that, and that is how it is helping in that particular field. So we have different types of tools catering to different kinds of data analysis and statistical analysis. Then comes Stata, which is in sixth number, used for econometrics, biostatics, and epidemiology research. So when you have epidemiology research or biostatics, you will use Stata. Provide tools for data management, regression, and graphical analysis. Then comes seventh number, Python. Increasing use in research by data analysis and machine learning. Nowadays, you will hear, I'm learning Python language. Why? Because I have to use it in my research. Libraries like Pandas, NumPy, and Matplotlib support statistical analysis and visualization. Now, what is the importance? You have seen so many different types, 7 different types, 8 different types of statistical tools. Importance of these is that they help summarize large data set into meaningful meaning, and they allow testing of research hypotheses, improve accuracy and reliability of results, enable visual representation of data through graphs and charts. So they are very, very useful, very handy, because they can help us to summarize large data set. They can allow to test research hypothesis. They can improve the accuracy and reliability of the results because these tools are very, very efficient and precise. and therefore they can also make graphical representation or make a chart representation of the database that you have generated. Now, data collection tools. These tools help gather raw information from various sources. It could be primary data collection tool or it could be secondary data collection tool. So, like primary data collection tools could be surveys, questionnaires, interviews, observation checklists, experiments and trials. In survey and questionnaire, you will have used in social sciences to gather large data. In interviews, structured or semi-structured questions will be put up to use it to gather in-depth qualitative data. Observation checklists for behavior or field studies. Experiments and trials are used commonly in natural sciences and medicine. Focus groups, as we mentioned a while ago, interactive discussion, one-to-one discussion to gather diverse opinion. Whereas under the secondary data collection tool, we have literature database, which could be, for example, PubMed, Scopus, Web of Science, ScienceDirect.com, and so on. They could also be from online repositories of institutional repository or government databases. So you can get these information very easily through the internet by clicking the right kind of software. If you are using secondary data collection tool, you go to the PubMed site and you can hunt for it. Or you go to the Scopus site, you can hunt for it. Similarly, you can go to Web of Science and you can hunt for it. Choice of research tool. The choice of research tool is very crucial. As I told you, you can't use anything which is not fitting your database. So, the choice of research tool greatly impacts the quality and credibility of the research. As research becomes increasingly interdisciplinary and data-driven, the integration of traditional methods with modern technologies has become now very important. Like AI, big data tools, and digital platforms have become absolutely essential. Researchers must select tools based on their research questions, methodology, and discipline to ensure meaningful and reliable outcomes, which means that you have to make the choices of the tool correctly. The bottom line is that you have to use for PubMed. If you are searching in PubMed, you are actually looking for more medical kind of information. If you are looking in Scopus or ScienceDirect.com, you are looking for informations related to chemistry and the experiments of chemistry. Now, when we in chemistry, the research tools are specialized instruments, techniques, and digital resources that aid in conducting experiments, analyzing compounds, and interpreting chemical behavior. These tools span across synthesis, analysis, characterization, and data process. Researchers must select the correct tool. Again and again, I am emphasizing on this because this is based on their research question, methodology, and discipline to ensure meaningful and reliable outcome. If you use wrong tool for wrong purpose, it will be of no consequence. So what it means that right choice of the tool can lead to correct and more accurate, precise data understanding. Data analysis tool, as I said, helps analyze quantitatively as well as qualitatively. So whether you have a quantitative data or a qualitative data, statistical software like SPSS, R, Stata, SAS, Excel, all this will be very, very useful. Whereas if you are doing qualitative analysis, the tools that you need to use are NVivo, Atlas TI, and MaxQDA. If you are doing mathematical, calculation, then MATLAB, Python, and also NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib will help you. So, right kind of choice of the research tool can lead to very good interpretation of your analytical data. Data collection tools used to gather raw data from various sources, surveys and questionnaires. You can actually have a Google form or Survey Monkey, and these are now standard questions that are there. All you need to do is to fill in some of the information, and there you are ready with your questionnaire. Interviews, these are also structured and they can be unstructured also, face to face or digital, depending on what kind of data collection tool you are opting for. Observation checklist, experiments and laboratory experiments instruments such as spectrophotometer, GC, HPLC, mass spectrometer are all available for experimental instruments that are available in the lab for doing the experiments and analyzing the sample. Sampling tools, pipettes and soil samplers, online data repositories like PubMed, Scopus, JSTOR. These are very good data collection tools, and this is to be borne in mind that when we use these tools, they help us to analyze the data very well. Now, I have taken this slide from ResearchGate, where qualitative data collection tools have been shown. And it was very attractive to see this because in-depth interviews, online forms, groups, online communities, web survey chats, etc. You can use any one of these modes and they can be very useful in understanding your qualitative data. Through these data collection tool, one can make qualitative analysis of the data that has been collected. Then comes, this also I have sourced from ResearchGate. It is depicting the quantitative data collection tool. You can have a mail, you can have face-to-face, you can have an online interaction, or through phone. You can collect quantitative data collection tool by all these means, which means that we are on the right track and we are using the correct mode of data collection tools. Analytical tools used as instruments in chemistry, used for identifying and quantifying chemical substances. Spectroscopy tools, it could be UV visible spectrophotometer for electronic transition, it could be IR spectrometer for functional group identification, it could be NMR spectrometer for molecular structure determination, it could be fluorescence spectrophotometer for photoluminescence analysis, mass spectrometer MS would be for molecular mass structure, atomic absorption spectrometer could be for metal ion identification and quantification, inductively coupled plasma MS, ICP MS would be used for metal ion, metalloid, and some non-metal detection and quantification. Chromatographic tools. Let us now get into a little deeper meaning of all these tools, particularly from research point of view in the field of chemistry. Used for separating and analyzing mixtures like gas chromatography GC, high performance liquid chromatography HPLC, thin layer chromatography TLC, column chromatography, ion exchange chromatography. Each one of them actually helps in separating typical type of compounds. Like for example, gas chromatography GC will be used to separate volatile components. Like if you have a perfume and you want to know the chemical composition of perfume, the best way to do is to put it in this machine and get the data out of saying how many different compounds are actually involved in that perfume. Similarly, if you have a higher molecular weight compound which cannot be volatilized, that can be analyzed or separated on high performance liquid chromatography HPLC, and the analytical result can be of great use. Similarly, when we start a reaction and we want to monitor the reaction, thin layer chromatography helps us because we can see how much of the starting material is slowly disappearing, how much of the product is forming. And when we have to separate them on little larger quantities, then we use column chromatography. Similarly, ion exchange chromatography is important when we want to separate ions instead of molecular compounds which are neutral. Then there are synthesis tools used in chemistry. There are many machineries, very common ones, which every laboratory will have. I'm just enlisting a few of them. Used in chemical reaction and compound preparation. A common laboratory will have a fume hood, safe environment for volatile and toxic chemicals, magnetic stirrers with hot plate, reflux apparatus, rotary evaporator, which are commonly known as rotavap. Now, rotavap can also have high vacuum attached to it. So, even if the boiling point of the compound is high and reduced reduced pressure, it can be distilled off very easily. Autoclave for high pressure reaction, microwave synthesizer for rapid heating, and many more. So every laboratory is at least equipped with a set of equipments that are commonly used. Then of course there are the balances, the pH meters, and all of this. Commonly these things will be available. A sonicator will be available where you want to do some reaction or some small scale synthesis. You can do even in sonicator where sound waves are used instead of a magnet which is stirring the reaction mixture. Then measurement and mixing in chemistry research. Measurement and mixing, we have beakers and flasks used for holding, mixing, and heating liquids. Erlenmeyer flask and volumetric flasks have specific shapes for different purposes. So we have glassware, which are also very specific in their shape and size and everything. Test tubes for holding and mixing small amounts of chemical, often used in qualitative analysis. Graduated cylinders and pipettes for precise volume measurements of liquid. Burettes used for titration, allowing for drop-wise addition of a solution in a reaction so that the end point is not lost or goes unnoticed. Magnetic stirrers, hot plates, and heating mantles, and all those things are common things which are for controlled mixing and heating of solutions. Then we have for separation, centrifuge, funnels, chromatography, and distillation apparatus. They have their own set of uses for which they are used. For example, if you have a centrifuge, it is used to separate substances based on their density. If you have funnels, it is used for filtering paper to separate solid from liquid. And these things are of common observation, which you would have even seen in your laboratory, even as an undergraduate student. Chromatography, GC, HPLC, they may not be available in every laboratory, but wherever they are available, it is used for separating mixtures based on their components, differing interaction with the stationary phase and the mobile phase. So what it works on a principle which has that every chemical has a tendency of its affinity either for the stationary phase or for the mobile phase. And based on this principle, the chromatographic tools have been developed. And this is, it started with a very simple experiment of using paper, and by dipping it in a solvent, and compound was charged on that. With the capillary action of the solvent, the compound started moving. Why? Because the mixture, the components of the mixture had different affinity for the stationary phase paper and the mobile phase solvent and the capillary action of the solvent. So that is how these things were developed. Finally, it was developed in the form of very sophisticated machines. Now, these chromatographic machines are now interconnected with spectroscopic machines, so that as and when they get separated, they also get analyzed for FTIR or UV or mass and so on. So these are called hyphenated machines, but they are very useful in today's time when research is to be done in a time bound, and all these analysis have to be done very perfectly with these equipments. Then we have distillation apparatus, which separates liquid with different boiling point. And there are different types of distillation apparatus. There is, Dean Stark apparatus, there is the simple distillation head, and so on and so forth, depending on what is to be separated from what. So, as a research student, if you have not had a chance to see these equipments in your laboratory, for some matter, maybe your college laboratory did not have all these equipments, do take a look at these when you visit any other lab which is having all these sophisticated instruments. Then, when you are actually doing the analysis, the spectrophotometer measures the absorbance or transmittance of light by a substance, enabling the identification and quantification of the chemicals. Mass spectrometer identifies and quantifies molecules based on their mass to charge ratio. Titration instrument, which is automatic titrators, these automate the process of titration, a technique used to determine the concentration of a substance. Microscopes like light and electron enable the observation of microscopic structures and molecules. X-ray diffraction determines the crystal structure of the material. Calorimeter measure heat changes during chemical reaction. Suppose if you want to do a reaction and you are not aware of the heat of whether this will be an exothermic reaction or an endothermic reaction, it is better to perform that in calorimeter. Any change in heat will be immediately measured. Electrochemical analyzers measure and analyze the electrical properties of chemical reaction. Nowadays, a lot of electrochemistry is happening. Many LED lamps are coming out. They are nothing but chemicals which have electrical properties. And those have been now used as safe alternative which requires less power, and that is how one should be aware that there are such analyzers which can measure and analyze the electrical properties of such chemical constituents. Then we have characterization tools used for study material properties. Thermal analysis instruments. You have DSC, differential scanning calorimetry, or thermogravimetric analysis, TGA. As the name suggests, one is taking a differential scanning of the heat, the other one is taking in or giving information if a substance is heated, what happens to its weight. That's why thermogravimetric analysis. So all have their very specific use. You cannot say that this one is useful, this one is not useful. That cannot be. Each one of them used in the appropriate manner at appropriate position give very useful result. Zeta potential analyzer for colloid stability. X-ray diffraction, XRD for crystalline structure. Scanning electron microscope, SEM, for giving the surface, picture. For any, material, if you want to take a picture of what is existing on the surface, everything cannot be seen with naked eyes. You need a very powerful microscope, and a scanning electron microscope can actually tell you what are the particles, what are the sizes of the particles, how much is the distance between the particles, and so on and so forth. Dynamic light scattering, DLS, particle size analyzer. You have a material, powdered material. Now you do not know what are the different sizes of the particles that is constituting this powder. The powder may not be very uniform. It may have smaller particles, it may have bigger particles. Now this DLS will give you particle size analysis showing what is the range from how much micron to how much micron particles are actually present in the mixture. Data analysis and documentation tool used to interpret results and manage findings. ChemDraw, Marvin Sketch for making molecular drawing. Origin Lab, GraphPad Prism, plotting and data analysis. Excel, Python are handling data and statistics. Lab notebooks, electronic or paper for documentation. Reference software, Mendeley, EndNote, Zotero, and many others. Just to give you again and again the idea that all these tools are very, very important because we are using them for a particular purpose. If we are doing referencing, we should use any one of these referencing software. If we are doing any kind of statistical calculation or data handling, we should use Python, R, or Excel. If we want to make some graphical representation of our data, we can use Origin Lab. If we want to draw molecular structure in the correct measurement, if we are wanting to draw a benzene structure, we can't have an elongated one. All the bonds have to be very equal, and that kind of drawing can only be done through ChemDraw or Marvin Sketch. Similarly, there are safety and monitoring tools. We saw that we had a dedicated lecture on MSDS. Now that is also a tool. It is a safety tool in laboratory which must be made use of. And then we learned in that same lecture personal protective equipment, PPE, which includes gloves, goggles, coats, aprons, and boots, special boots which are worn in laboratory and industry, pH meter, conductivity meter, gas detectors like H2S, carbon monoxide, ammonia, etc. So you can understand that all the tools, it's not just analyzing tool, even safety tools are equally important, and a knowledge of all these tools, including MSDS, which is material safety data sheet, are also very, very important. Essential tools for a researcher to know: reference management software, Mendeley. So these should be actually on your fingertips. If I have to look for reference, I should look for Mendeley EndNote, which helps the researchers organize and manage their citations and references. Academic writing tools, Grammarly and other tools help improve the clarity and accuracy of written work. Plagiarism checker, tools like iThenticate or Qtex or Turnitin help ensure the originality of research papers. Project management tools, Trello, Asana, and other tools help researchers manage their research projects, deadlines, and tasks. Where you have to, it pops up with an information. Now you have to submit your report. Now you have to do this. Now you have to fill your inventory, etc. It is a reminder tool. Literature search tool, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and other databases help researchers find relevant literature. Collaboration and communication tools are also very important. Platforms like Slack and Microsoft Teams help facilitate communication and collaboration among researchers. So if you want to make a conference with another laboratory in some other part of the world, this Microsoft team can be used. Even Zoom platform can be used. Even Google has a platform, Google Meet, where you can collaborate and communicate through these tools in your research activity. Journal Finder tool, tools like Journal Finder helps researchers identify suitable journals for publishing their work. Sci-Hub, Sci-Finder, these are some of them. Now this is a very interesting slide that I came across and I thought I should share with you. Standard statistical tool in research and data analysis. Source from StatsWork. So when you are looking at your research, you have to understand which are the standard statistical tools appropriate for your data analysis. So you have Google Webmaster tool, you have Google Analytics, you have Scoopit, you have Quantly, you have Presentation and Buffer. All these put together actually is helpful in finding out what is best for your research analysis and which tool to make use of. Common statistical tools used in research are methods used to summarize, analyze, and interpret research data. Researchers apply these tools to test hypotheses and identify relationships in data. First is mean. You just take an average. You do 3 experiments and just add all the values and divide by 3. The mean is the average or value of a data set. It is calculated by adding all the observations and dividing by the number of observations, used to measure the central tendency of the data. Median, second number. The median is the middle value when data are arranged in order. It is useful when the data set contains extreme values. That means, very high and very low. Then you have to take a median. Third one is mode. The third mode is the value that occurs most frequently in a data set. Fourth is standard deviation. Standard deviation measures the dispersion or spread of data around the mean. A small standard deviation indicates that values are very close to the mean. So standard deviation is very important. If you have not drawn a standard deviation in a large data set, you are not sure whether you have actually you are close to the mean or not. Mean means which is an average. And then correlation, fifth number. Correlation measures the relationship between two variables, positive, negative, or no relationship. So, whether or not it is interrelated, whether or not they are related, everything can be drawn from the correlation tool, statistical tool. Then sixth number is regression. Regression analysis determines the effect of one variable on another and helps in prediction and forecasting. Similarly, seventh is t-test. A t-test is used to compare the mean of two groups to see if they are significantly different. Eighth is analysis of variance, which means ANOVA. ANOVA is used to compare the means of three or more groups to determine if there is a significant difference. Ninth is chi-square test. The chi-square test is used to examine the relationship between categorical variables. And 10th is percentage analysis. A simple statistical tool used to represent data in percentage form for easy comparison and interpretation. We say that 50% of the students passed and 50% failed. So that was done through this statistical tool by taking percentage analysis of passed and failed students. So, to conclude this lecture, I would say that research tools are essential components that aid in the systematic collection, analysis, and interpretation of data. They include both tangible instruments like laboratory equipments, software or online databases, and intangible tools such as questionnaires, checklists, and theoretical frameworks. The effective selection and use of research tools ensures accuracy, reliability, and efficiency in the research process. Moreover, discipline-specific tools like spectroscopy in chemistry or statistical software in social sciences enhance the precision and depth of study outcome. In conclusion, the proper application of appropriate research tools is critical to achieving valid results and advancing knowledge within any field. And again, I am emphasizing that if we take help of the correct statistical tool, we will get correct conclusion. If we fail to do that, that means that we are on the wrong footing. And that is why a full dedicated lecture was planned to make you understand that these research tools are very, very helpful and they assist us in our research journey to a very large extent. You have a huge database. How do you analyze them? You have a spectra. How do you interpret that? It is with the help of these analytical tools that we are able to efficiently find a solution and get to the conclusion of our research outcome. So with this, we have come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.